Okay, hey, it's 7 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get the board meeting going. Call to order. First up, Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next up, approval of agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda. I second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Comments from the public. Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. Chairman, we have 4 comments that have been submitted tonight. First commenter makes the following points: express concern about budget allocations, express concerns about teachers having to do more with less, express concern about heated buildings, state issue with contact news reporters. Comment number 2, the comment made the following points: express concern regarding the collaboration and bargaining process between GA and EA and the district, express concern about relationships and employees being treated fairly and professionally, encourage the district to do what is necessary to find common ground and settle the contract. Public comment number 3, the commenter makes the following points: express concern about theme with district leadership related to budget and teacher cuts, stated that the district has excess funds in reserve and would not need to cut teacher positions, express concerns about student behaviors, decreased student engagement, increased workload, student readiness to learn, and class sizes. Requested district leadership support teachers and work with teachers, requested help with student and staff safety, class size, workload, and competitive wage with other districts. Finally, comment number 4, the commenter expressed concern about low reading scores in elementary schools, in particular at Waverly, South Shore, and Sunrise. Asked what the steps the district is taking to improve reading scores are. Requested concern and answers to questions at the next board meeting. Finally, expressed appreciation for the hard work, dedication, and leadership for the success of students. That's it.
Okay, next up, board business, board goals. Anybody like to speak on that at all? Nope.
No.
For me, I just like to say I think it's really important. I know we're making extra. We've already had policies before about cell phones and behaviors. I just think cell phones and behaviors, proper use of those is really important to allow our teachers to be able to help our kids learn. All the data coming out shows that is true. It's also good for mental health. I'm looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve board goals as presented.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board working agreements. Look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the 2024-25 board working agreements as presented.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, next up, Mr. Superintendent, you're back up. Superintendent comments.
So I think we're going to have some quick tables here, and I may be able to read them at that distance. I may need to turn around. So just a few things that we want to, you guys have requested a couple things around the bargaining, and so we'll just kind of go through, we'll review the comparison districts. We take 10 districts nearest in size. We also include Lebanon because it's nearby. We also got a little, one of the letters here in the board packet is from the bargaining or the union president in Lebanon, so we can talk a little bit about that. But this is a comparison of the district insurance to other insurance for certified, and then just a little bit of specific total compensation with Lebanon and Corvallis. And then we'll talk a little bit about another piece of information that's circulated, and you saw that in the comments tonight from the public, that there is a $30 million ending fund balance, and we're probably in the neighborhood of that, but there are many funds that are restricted in their use, and so we'll talk about that. So let's go to the next slide. This is the total insurance that's certified receive in this district versus other districts. And so if you look where it says district cap, you can see GAPS has a $1,598 cap. This is last year's number because we haven't calculated next year's number. If you look at that, you can see that Corvallis, for example, has 1,425, that Tiger Tualatin has 2,054. And then we go over to the column on the right, and different districts do different things with the people who opt out and don't take the insurance. Albany fully pools, which means that the 1,598 becomes actually 1,887 per employee in the district. If you look at Corvallis, they have a different way of adding on. They have given $50 to improve their basic cap. They are 1,475. And so what happens there is Albany teachers have the second best insurance package across that. The one district that is superior to them among the composite is a local option district. Tiger Tualatin and Corvallis both have local option taxes to support them. Another thing for everybody to think about, and I wish the people would have stayed around, but you can see down below that there are tiered rates. These are not composite where everybody gets the same thing. David Douglas in Klamath County pay their single teachers who together less and their families more. That's called a tiered rate. Next slide. I know it's going to get there. The what? Boom. Okay, so there's a little time lapse. So, talking about Lebanon, we took the teaching scale from Lebanon and we looked at what GAPS has offered now. And what you're looking at is the left-hand column, the top and the bottom and the top. So the first one is what's in the cell for a first-year teacher with only a bachelor's degree. And you can see in pay what GAPS has offered, $48,582 compared to Lebanon School District's current year salary to $44,000. We know we were about $4,300 ahead of that scale. If we look at the insurance, which we just talked about, and then add them together for total compensation, you can see that GAPS is compensating $71,000 worth of salary and insurance at the base step to start. If you look at the top of that column, Lebanon has a longer column there than we do, and you can see we're a little bit short at the very top, step 21. And I have some history from Ryan and some other people that Albany has not put a lot of energy into this column. We only have a few teachers that are on the top of that column. But by the time we put insurance, where we spend $4,500 a year more per teacher, we end up within about $4,000 total compensation. And both of those are our big out-of-pocket costs with a given teacher. Let's go. So that's the left hand, the bachelor column. Let's go to the next one. So for teachers that have a master's, I think it's plus 45, it might be plus 60, but the master's column is the far right column. And we just look at the top and the bottom of the two outside columns just to kind of see where we are. But here again, when we see a teacher who has a master's plus, and they begin their career here, GAPS pays about $3,600 a year more. Back one.
You're there.
I wanted to go to Lebanon.
master's plus 60.
It's still correct on that one.
Okay, there it is. So if you take a look at the bottom right, the highest paid salary in the district, you can, you can see that we have about $2,500 more than Lebanon School District at that level. Again, we have the same insurance. Again, it is about $4,500 more, and we can see we're about $7,000 more in total compensation. So we're not necessarily competing against Lebanon in all ways, but we know locally people are making those choices, and so we believe we're comfortable. The only place is the top of the bachelor scale. Let's go to Corvallis. Are we there? So at the bottom on the left, our base salary for a teacher coming out of college with a bachelor's, we are $48,582. Corvallis is $50,942. We have a significant difference in our favor in insurance. Again, $18,300 to $22,646. Even though our pay is lower, we actually, total compensation, have a greater expense than Corvallis. The top of that same column, Corvallis is way above us, and we see that. And then, of course, with insurance, we end up being short of that. And again, that's something that we've discussed. How do we do that? Corvallis is unlike most districts in that they have a full scale for a bachelor's teacher that goes almost up to a master's level. Let's go to the next one. And then this would be the far right column. And again, Corvallis starts about $1,000 more than us in pay, actually $400 more than us in pay. And our insurance, again, takes us to where we actually compensate at a higher level. The master's plus 60 column at the bottom, these are the highest paid teachers in the district. We have a $91,000 top out offered. Corvallis is currently at $98,916. But with insurance, you can see that we close the gap. So a couple things to remind everybody about Corvallis. Corvallis has generally paid a little bit more because they have a local option tax to support. The second fact about Corvallis, they reduced 60 positions this year. And so sometimes you can take it a little bit too far. Let's go to the next page. So Jane, do you want to talk about this? We have heard that there are people who say that we have $30 million to spend, and Jane can take you through a little bit where we believe we are. We have communicated and shared the general fund, which we track on a 12-month sheet. Jane can take you through the rest, and if you would, Jane, just make sure and point out how can we use any of these to settle a contract.
Andy, before we go to Jane, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
The numbers that we use here, these are numbers that don't include current offer, correct?
No, those are the current offer.
Those are
that
current
are
offer.
standing.
Okay, thank you.
Except we did not increase insurance yet because we pool, and we can't calculate that till the end of this month.
Okay, so.
But we will have that.
Those numbers included current offer.
They are the current offer for salary, and we will have to pool before we can move last year's.
Okay, thank you.
I also had a question. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
For this data, do you have a comparison for the average cost of living in these different areas?
I do not, I mean, off the top of our head,
Yeah, but
Corvallis
let's-
is more expensive than us, but also I would say Albany's more expensive than Lebanon. So that's a lot of data to get.
Okay, thank you.
The only drill down you get is western states now, which is the states in the American West. That's the only thing you get down below national CPI. Thank you.
Okay. So just kind of as a review, our budget, total budget's 198 million. And the beginning fund balance, all in across all funds, budgeted was almost 29 million. And 15.9 of that is general fund, which by the end of this fiscal year will be 10.6. 10.6 is almost equal to what I transferred to do the 1 month of payroll. Our auditor actually recommends we have 3 times that. So that's the general fund portion. And then you can see in the special revenue fund, which is our grants, there's 2.7 million, and that is dedicated to whatever purpose that grant has. That isn't, we can't take that and move that to general fund. In the food service fund, we have 1.1 million. And then in debt service, the budget was 900,000. And this supports, we have 3 debt payments we make. In the month of July, we pay almost 2 million in debt service payments. And so that 900,000 really needs to be 2 million because we're actually borrowing against that general fund, beginning fund balance to make our debt service payments. Capital projects funds, almost 8 million. That's our bond fund. That's what's left of the bond beginning this fiscal year. And we're projected by the end of the year to spend that down to about 3 million. So again, those are dedicated funds to our bond projects. And then internal services fund, there's 200,000, and that is for our unemployment cost. And we'll find out next month how much we will be paying for the unemployment costs that occurred across the summer. So in every fund, those balances are dedicated. We actually adopt a government accounting standard board ruling that requires us to restrict the funds for their purpose. And we adopt that with our budget every year. Are there any questions?
Just to clarify, the special revenue fund, that's the 200s? So ID,
Yes.
title, all those combined?
Yes, where the student body funds are, there's over $1 million in student body funds within that.
Okay, thanks. I thought so.
Thus ends my report.
Before, Mr. Superintendent, before you move forward, could you summarize the listening session as part of your comments? Because I wasn't here and the other 2 board members were.
Yeah, we had a good number of teachers come out. We heard statements from members of the community around Central. We also had parents speak. We had a student speak about appreciation for the teachers in the district. We concluded the listening session about 35 minutes after it began. Everybody was respectful. We appreciated what they had to say.
Great, thank you.
Okay, next up is board reports. Brad, do you have anything?
No, I don't.
Ryan? I don't really have much. I'm just excited school started. It sounds like things are doing really well. Teachers are excited. They're obviously doing the heavy lifting. When I talk to administrators and stuff, they're really happy with how the school year is going so far. They're seeing some improvements. Obviously, we're always hoping for more. Overall, I think it's a good kickoff. AJ, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I have a school report prepared for today. In sports, we had a football game last Friday, which we lost versus Silverton. Our next football game is October 4th at CV versus CB. We had a girls and boys water polo. Both of them won versus Ashland on Saturday. There's a volleyball game at CBS Thursday, or there was a volleyball game versus CHS last Thursday. There's a volleyball meet next Thursday and Saturday versus Lebanon. And girls soccer is at South Salem next Tuesday. There have been several clubs going on at West Albany. There's environmental clubs meetings every Tuesday, which are generally planning cleanups for around the school and at different public parks. There's Model UN meetings, Fridays at lunch, youth and government meetings, Thursdays at lunch. And recently, the homecoming theme was announced as Wild Wild West, like West Albany, and elections are going to be held October 4th. I'd also like to take this time to emphasize the overwhelming support and community that the teachers of West Albany have offered to so many of students at the school. And also, the class sizes at West Albany have been like incredibly large, like absurdly large. And it makes it kind of increasingly harder for students to learn and for teachers to teach every student individually. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our new South Albany representative, Valeria.
For South Albany, so far, we have recently moved into a block schedule for the first time. We used to be in a rover schedule, which meant we had to substitute a class. Now we take 4 classes a day, which means we have an hour and a half, like 90 minutes of class. So it's either the students take advantage of that, have extra support, have positive attributes. We can actually have group discussions. And it's actually been helping with homework burden based on student athletes and school events, et cetera. It's been really helpful. The contradiction about that is it could be a long lack of boredom for other students who are really not putting that effort academically. Recently, we just had our PEP assembly, which that was the first time I've ever seen seniors actually contribute to the high spirited of the class. Also with South Albany, we have 2 new integrated classes. One, Red Rock 101, which is our freshman class. That is for freshmen to be prepared for the school ambience as in how to be a student in high school. We also have a student support class, which is a study skills that we recently integrated just for our seniors, since some of them have been lacking those credit recovery and really don't look forward to college. So it's really a support class for teachers to stay, instead of using their prep, they're using that prep to work and to help students for those who need help. And as of that, that's all I have for South Albany.
Thank you and welcome. So overall, you like the 8th class. Some kids don't, but you do. Great. Are you taking full advantage of it, taking some?
Oh, yes, I am. I'm
Oh.
trying to support other students as well, but we all do who we are, so.
Sure.
Do your classes seem noticeably bigger to you this year, or?
My classes have been a little bit heavier, but they've been really good, so teachers are very flexible.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Next up, committee, community, and school presentations. We don't have anything. Consent
Nope.
agenda. Classified.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve personnel classified as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next up, minutes, regular board meeting, 9/9/24.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve minutes as presented.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we don't have any old business. Next up is reports, equity update. Kelsey, you're up.
Awesome. That came so quick. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can get this to work. Okay. Let's hope that. Okay. Yay. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to start the year and be here to chat with you again about the awesome stuff we're doing. This year, we're really focusing on giving you an update of all of the work that the department's doing, not just focusing on bias incident, while that will be something we're continuing to focus on and report out. We really want to highlight the other stuff we're doing to change and shift culture. I think that folks have often seen a graphic of students looking at the baseball field in terms of how to understand inequality, equity, and equality. I really like this new graphic that's about a couple years old because it really focuses on the 4th panel, which is where I would like to see our district going in terms of, and I feel that we are going, putting systems in place and removing barriers entirely, which supports our #1 goal in our strategic plan, which is equitable outcomes for all students. So just wanted to start with this. And so I'm going to give you a brief overview of what you can expect for the year. I'm going to continue to focus on strengthening our equitable practices across the district. That will look like increased collaboration with student, staff, and community. We will be looking at a district equity committee that is required from the Oregon Department of Education. That should be coming to you all soon with more information. I'm really excited about that, to partner with community intentionally. This year, we'll have a strong focus on looking at the ways in which our policies, practices, and curricula intersect with our equity goals. As I mentioned a minute ago, we'll continue with a sustained focus on bias interruption, continuing to evaluate what it looks like to have appropriate classroom norms and ensure inclusive spaces in classrooms. I'm going to continue to work with staff training on how to interrupt. I created a lot of guides this summer with different scenarios that support them in tactics to interrupt and then process depending on where they're at, if they're a teacher, if they're a staff member, if they're administrator, and exact language that would support them in supporting students who've experienced harm as well as caused harm, either intentional or not. We will continue to track incidents and offer growth opportunities for the students who are learning how to appropriately interact with their peers, as well as be transparent about the numbers as the year progresses. I'm really excited that we're adopting the CEL 5D this year. A lot of opportunities for equity to intersect with all of the evaluative tools that we'll be walking through. And we will be working with West Ed's culturally responsive and equitable systems team, which will offer some crosswalks of culturally responsive teaching tools that we'll be pushing out with our equity cohort, which I will talk to you about in a moment. Really grateful that we're going to be able to continue our affiliate basis. And in addition to that, I plan to train our co-facilitators as well so that they have a stronger understanding of what it looks like to share that space and hopefully in the coming years be able to take that on. I am one person and I can't sever myself into a million pieces. I would love to also see us be able to have that at the elementary level in some age-appropriate way in the future. Additionally, want to explore staff affinity spaces. We don't have a large number of staff of color or marginalized staff, but it's really important to me that we would also retain those staff as they come into our district. So that's something that I'm working with a few folks around if there's interest. As you know, we partner with Jason Dorset, and he belongs to a community-based group of leaders who talk about what it looks like to retain staff and how to support them once they're in our district. So hopefully more to come on that. I have a huge goal of supporting professional development this year. I absolutely honor and understand that not everyone comes to this job with an equity lens or maybe an understanding based on their lived experience or cultural schema. I really want to grow administrative and teacher capacity to continue to be leaders and engage in equity work themselves. There will be a focus on some bias response training and some of the fostering of positive school culture, which is a main tenet of the CEL 5D. I'm incredibly excited to partner with our new assistant superintendent on the equity cohort model. We'll be working with one school from each level this year, Periwinkle, North Albany Middle School, where we are currently, and South Albany High School. And one representative from each of those schools will be coming with me to the Equity COSA this week. That cohort model will allow for those school leaders to have some ongoing professional development and have some peer collaboration, as well as report out to their levels about what they're learning. And hopefully with a successful pilot year, we would be able to grow that and offer more hand-holding and intentional support. Bruce, did you?
No.
Oh, okay. And then additionally, culturally responsive and sustaining walkthrough tool. That's something that our West Ed team brings to the table, and we will be looking at what that looks like, crosswalking that work with our cell. And any of the data that we collect will be directly supporting our school improvement plans and the ways in which we are offering equitable support to students. Additionally, last year there was a lot of want for additional support for folks that I wasn't in front of as often. So this summer I spent a lot of time creating critical conversation guides for discussing sensitive topics around bias, derogatory language, and et cetera. I think that y'all were included on some of those emails where there's some links. Additionally, I developed some guides on the importance of creating classroom norms and how to create those, which I shared out with staff. And I'm always open to creating and curating more tools based on what folks need. Additionally, I created some guides for understanding the district's bias incident protocol and additional tools for staff, which I imagine I'll just continue to build throughout the year as concerns arise. And I was really grateful for the opportunity to develop some bilingual lesson plans, K through 12, a lot of which spoke to social stories around bias incident, particularly at the elementary level. The largest feedback I got this past year was that elementary folks needed additional support on how to have those critical conversations at that young age. And all of those, of course, aligned with our ODE guidelines. And yeah, I'm open to questions if there are any.
First off, thanks for all you do. I think it's great. I know that staff in the buildings love the fact that you're out in the buildings supporting them. Do we have any luck hiring a new Ethan?
We are interviewing tomorrow, and I'm really hopeful. And I'm grateful for some community partners in the area who will be supporting our BIPOC affinity spaces alongside myself. And we did just apply for the Black Student Success Grant along with the NAACP in our partnering districts. And I'm hopeful that that will allow us to have a united front on how we're supporting our BIPOC students, particularly our Black students.
And on that, great, well, thank you, and I'm glad we're getting close to that. But also, just because you shared with me, I'd like to tell Ethan, congratulations, he's engaged.
Yes, he got engaged this weekend.
Anybody who knows him from last year, he was here, part of the district, really nice young man. We miss him, but I'm happy for him that he's moving on with his life and is engaged.
Absolutely, and he'll be hearing if he got accepted to the MBA program, hopefully in the next week or so. So thank you so much.
All right, wish him, go ahead, Brad.
Just kidding.
Kelsey, I wanted to thank you for all the work you're doing. And I know we've talked about this before, but, not being afraid of the large numbers to try to get a handle of the problem so that we can help to try to resolve it. So I really appreciate that you brought that into this discussion, and we look forward to helping you any way we can.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, next up is summer school report, Bruce and Bonnie.
Hi, I want to introduce Leanna Bennett. She's here with me to share about Surfs Up Summer. She's the dean at Central Tahkeena, and she did a tremendous job as being the summer school administrator this summer, and so I wanted to invite her to share some of the great work that she did. We had a couple different programs going. We used.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to try to get it on the screen. If it'll allow me.
And maybe move the mic a little bit closer. It's hard to hear you. You got to have it real close, unfortunately.
Is that better?
Oh, much. Yes, there it is.
We're trying to get the presentation onto the screen. A little bit of a challenge right now.
The visiting team always has to start.
I think this is Mr. Gardner's hazing new administrators in the district.
I came prepared.
We have it. We just won't be able to broadcast it to the public. Closer. Here we go.
Okay, can you move to the first slide? Okay, as I was saying, we used ESSER funds, Title I money, and Measure 98 dollars this summer to provide some summer school experiences for our students. Surf's Up Summer was for our incoming first through third graders, and it was a program that ran Monday through Friday, July 9th through August 22nd. And we also paid for our middle school transition program for students transitioning from 5th grade to 6th grade in August with ESSER. With Title I money, we did a Jumpstart Kinder program for Title I-A schools with a school-wide model. Central was not, or Chiquina was not able to send students in Central because of the projects going on at the school, so we weren't able to have summer school there. Sunrise was also closed, but we were able to partner for students to attend at Lafayette so that their kinders could participate in the model. And they went for a week for about 3 hours a day from August 14th through 17th. And then Bruce is going to talk about Measure 98 a little bit later. For Surf's Up Summer, we had a total of 185 students. Our average daily attendance was 65%. And they were there for 5 hours a day. There was 19 days of the program. And again, it was just for incoming first through third grade, and we were focused on literacy skills only. Students served by grade. We had opportunities for our bilingual students in a first grade, second grade, and third grade bilingual classroom. Our average class size ranged from 15 to 19 across the grade levels. We had classified staff. We were lucky that at first grade we were able to have each teacher had at least one classified staff, but we were able to flood a little bit more. We did a flooding model this year. Leanna will talk a little bit more about that. But that meant that when we were working with kids in small groups, we flooded IAs to classrooms so that we could maximize the number of students that we had targeted instruction with.
So, Surf's Up, sorry, but those have to be uncomfortably close. Surf's Up Summer Learning, our daily schedules were allotted enough minutes for students to have social emotional learning. I'll go over everything that we were working on during these times, but social emotional learning, English language arts. They had some intervention time as well, which Bonnie was talking about as well. That was allotted through all grade levels. We also had some recess breaks in there, and then a chunk of time for literacy enrichment. And again, I'll go through what that looked like and sounded like. So our social emotional time, we used morning meetings. Every classroom followed the same model. They went through on Tuesday and every day of the week. They would open their classrooms up with a greeting, a special greeting like we're going to say hello to Bonnie and do like a syllable clap for the name Bonnie. It was a lot of fun and engaging for students and teachers. Then they spent some time sharing something about themselves. So what was their favorite thing that they did yesterday, or what's their favorite color? And everybody was able to take part in that as kind of like a class family. Then there was a group activity that they would have provided for them. So some of them were like sharing with your partners or doing like a little treasure hunt in the classroom so that they could build skills with groups. And then a special time where they got to share like news and announcements. I'll share in a little bit. We had spirit days on Fridays to try to get students to come to school regularly on Fridays. And then we had a reading assembly, magic assembly. So there was some things that students needed to be aware of that were coming up ahead. And then we spent 2 chunks of time specifically on foundational skills for students, first through third grade. So we spent some time on phonemic awareness. And that included like saying sounds, hearing sounds, more of the hearing part of reading.
And then we spent time in ECRI, which is our phonics practice that is already adopted through the school district. Each grade level was spending about 60 minutes on a literature standard, and it was all the same literature standard. It was retelling stories, and this came from our curriculum as well. Then we spent about 30 minutes each grade level working on the same writing standard of practicing writing narratives. The meat and potatoes of our program was really our intervention time, which Bonnie was talking about earlier, where we spent time targeting students on the skills that they needed. So before school had ended, instructional coaches and teachers, assistants administered a pre-assessment for all students who were registered for the program. And that gave us the information that we needed to group the students before they even came into the summer program. And it came from our program that we already have is really great reading, and you might know it through BLAST. BLAST is a pretty typical program that we're already using for interventions, but really great reading had created this science of reading, which is how they call soaring to summer success. So it was an explicit and systematic intervention that gave students groupings that they needed to specifically target the skills that they were lagging in. We also had 45 minutes of literacy enrichment. So this is where the teachers were able to kind of captivate what they were most interested in to enhance literacy. So there were things, of course, not limited to this list, but they could work on book reports or readers' theater. There were many teachers that kind of took it in their own, what was really fun and exciting for them and their students for their literacy enrichment. And I have to give a little bit of a shout out because the teachers that we hired or that were there during summer program were an outstanding group of colleagues that I work with. They came, they showed up, and they worked really hard this summer. So just a little shout out to all my summer peeps that are out there. Like I said, we also had Fridays, Spirit Days. So we wore our crazy socks because reading knocks your socks off. And on July 19th, we were reading brings your wild side. So we were wearing animal print on that Friday and so forth. So we also had, like I said, that reading is magic. This gentleman, Jeff, what's his last? Evans. Jeff Evans was ironically coming to the Corvallis Fair, and I had captivated him via some website, and he said that he could give us a really great discount if we backed it up to the day that he was going to be in town. So we got a really great deal for him to come in, and he provided some really great entertainment to our students that maybe they wouldn't have had in their school programs, their homeschool programs. And the students absolutely loved him. In fact, some of our teachers were very mind blown by his magic.
Was he magic?
He was the most magical person I've ever encountered. He was a hoot. So some glows and grows that we have from the program. Some strengths that we had, there was 86% of the students who were given the pre-assessment and the post-assessment, they had showed some growth. 37% of those students who received the pre and post assessment, we would mark them as having moderate to significant growth. Some opportunities that I saw we could use to improve. Earlier communication. So for instance, parents registered for the program, I believe like in May. And then with busy schedules of an already existing staff member, instructional coach, wrapping up the year and then transitioning into summer principal, getting contact with the parents a little bit earlier. I believed maybe some parents had not realized that they were registered, but they had already made plans. So there was handfuls of students who were registered but had already made summer plans and were not attending. And then also attendance matters. providing those incentives for daily attendance. So the focus was mostly on Fridays, when we could have really impacted students on Monday through Friday instead of just focusing on Friday.
Last year, we did run programs Monday through Thursday. Our early literacy grant has a requirement around providing students additional learning time. And in order to meet that requirement, kind of with the weird way that 4th of July fell and when we could start school, we had to do a 5-day week in order to meet that time frame. So I do, last year with a 4-day week, it was better attendance, so we might want to look at that when we're planning for the future and or expanding the day a little bit to meet those time requirements for the early literacy grant. For the kindergarten transition program, 106 students. Parents in kindergarten love to have their kids come. We had 95% attendance, which was great. They are there for 3 hours a day. Also, for average attendance, Memorial had 76 students with 95%. Calapooya, 68% attendance, and NAMS, 65 students with 97% attendance. We would like to continue to expand the number of students that attend our middle school transition programs. I think that's roughly a third of the number of incoming sixth graders that we have in each middle school.
Is it open to all of them, but just that's the only ones that show up?
Yeah. Yes, it was open to all. We don't budget necessarily for all because we haven't had that many attend, but we had, I believe, up to 100, budget up to 125 to attend.
But in terms of telling the kids, it's like everybody can come.
Yes, yeah, and we send information to the feeder elementary schools and post it on Parent Square. We try to put it on the website. We've tried to put it out a couple of different ways.
And I will tell you, the NAM staff was very creative. The first day the program was going to start, there was a transformer that blew. They had no power. They walked over to North Albany Elementary School. They managed to maintain their programs, get food over there. Were super creative, and they made a big impression because kids kept coming back. So it was fantastic. The middle school program is designed to build connections to staff and peers, to look at a combination of both academic and social activities, to share key school procedures with our incoming sixth graders, to talk about passing time lockers, cafeteria, what it looks like to be a middle school student. They're providing those students with the ability to seek out a trusted adult when needed at the start of the school year and kind of take away some of those middle school jitters that kids have. And then, of course, to provide a structured school experience at the end of the summer to help transitioning back to a school-based schedule in September. And that is offered that last part of August, right before we start the school year. In terms of summer school opportunities for high school students, each one of our 3 high schools offers programming. Albany Options serve 20 students, South Albany High School 199, and West Albany High School 116. Each of those programs, Albany Options offers both credit recovery and first-time credit. South Albany is credit recovery only, and West Albany offers both first-time and credit recovery options. You can see that each of the programs has a different duration of days for summer school programming, and they're all a combination of both in-person and online programming. When we look at the total number of credits earned at each of those high schools, Albany Options had a total of 4 credits, South Albany 240, and West Albany 73. All 3 offered a variety of content areas, most definitely focused heavy on core instruction, most often for credit recovery. You can see the credits that were earned in each area. English language arts was 77.5, math 67.5, science 88, social studies 36, health 7, physical education 2.5, foreign language 1, art 0.5, CTE 14, and 21 elective credits were earned. Again, the majority of credits that are offered and earned are in core content areas to make sure we're making up for lost credit to keep on track for graduation. This year, the 3 programs offered a total of 315 credits. Pretty impressive. In addition to that, both high schools offer some transitionary programs for incoming 9th graders. At South Albany High School, they have a program called Take Flight. There were 32 students that participated in that program and attended at a 94% rate. That is a 2-week program at 3.5 hours per day. These are strategically selected students who would benefit or who do benefit from a structured transition program. Again, designed to build relationships, connections, and gain some of those essential skills to be successful at the high school level. The Take Flight program continues throughout the course of the year, and students have the opportunity to take 4 or 5 day trips as a cohort to continue to build those relationships and establish a strong cohort of learners as they come in as 9th graders. At West Albany High School, there were 18 students that attended their summer transition program with an 83% attendance rate. At West, it is an 8-day program at 4 hours per day. And again, like South, it's to develop strategically selected students that will benefit from that program. And again, it focuses on building relationships, connections, and gaining quality relationships to transition into the high school experience. Uh-oh. I'm not able to fast forward to the next slide.
You verbally?
Is that it? Fantastic.
Okay.
Any questions on our summer school programming?
Yeah, on the elementary one, how are those students?
I'm sorry.
How are the students selected for the K-5 program?
The schools use their MTSS process and select them based on a criteria. So this year, it's really important with intervention programs that you're matching the need to the placement in the program. So we gave them guidelines to support them in selecting students that would meet the guidelines of the soaring program.
Okay, so is it intentional as opposed to like?
Yes, they're very intentional.
Do most of the students that we'd like to come to summer school come to summer school?
I would like to say yes, but I also think that it was quite troublesome to gather the students that we were intentionally trying to target. And that was a little bit of a struggle in May when trying to find students and get them registered. Most instructional coaches were struggling to get parents to register after being invited.
We did start the registration process earlier. They were given guidance prior to spring conferences with the idea that they could have conversations with parents at conferences. I think it does present a challenge for schools. Each school was given like a target number of students based on how large the school was. And so parents or staff are trying to contact parents and return phone calls and help with registration. And so we don't always reach all the students that we want. And then also once they come, I don't have the data, but there's a significant number of students. If you notice when we reported the data for post-test, pre-test and post-test, we have a lot of students that either didn't come during the pre-test window or they didn't come during the post-test window, and they only came for a few days. So we don't have data for all the students because of that.
And it goes back to that, like attendance does really matter.
Sure. I mean, and the reality is, part of the reason some of these kids are behind is because challenges with home life. And challenges with home life make it hard to sign up for classes, right? So I do agree, Senator Mayhe's pushing us all the time about the fact that, reading K-3 is huge. If you're not doing well K-3, you're going to have a hard time the rest of your life, right? Right. And we all agree on that, and I think we're doing all we can to improve that. But it's hard because there's a reason a lot of them are behind, and getting them to the plate to attend is difficult. So anything we can do to improve that is fantastic. Appreciate the fact that we're getting more time and we're using the fund well to help kids when they need it. So thank you for the hard work.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
What I do want to say is I do want to recognize the work of both Bonnie and Leanna. You're talking about wrangling up 185 students from 7 different school sites to participate in a 19-day program over the summer. That takes an incredible amount of work, coordination, and effort to make that happen. So I want to say thank you for your hard work. It's not easy to do. So I truly appreciate that. And it is a big success to show that growth academically when we're looking at summertime intervention and work. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, K3 is next. Business financial update. Jane.
Chris, can you share it? It just kicked me out. So we have talked, I've reported to you in previous meetings, we are monitoring our student counts. And this slide shows current enrollment versus our ADMR. So right now, for today, students that show in our enrollment, elementary, were 3,890, middle school, 1,991, and high school, 2,941, for a total of 8,831. And that's enrollment, right? That includes some kids who maybe have left the district but haven't received a 10-day drop yet. So there are differences. And then the average daily membership budgeted is what we projected last January when we were starting to build our budget. And it is higher by almost 60 kids, and that will be more than 60 because remember, the enrollment is students, and average daily membership is a total of students' attendance. So it's always less than the kids you see sitting in the seats. And so next month in October, after we have our first quarter ADMR, we'll have a better picture of if we need to reduce our funding. ODE will let us contact them and say, hey, we overprojected our enrollment, we want to reduce it by 60 students, and we would have that opportunity in November. So I will be coming back to you in October with the review of our ADM report from what we see in our student information system. And then I also will have our unemployment invoice from this summer. And so we'll bring that information back. And then we also will be able to see if ODE is leaving the funding consistent with the last reports that we've had. So we'll put all those pieces together and have a good idea of the funding cuts that we may have.
Okay, thank you. Andy, on a different note, but I know we talked about it and wanted to kind of get caught up. Always at the beginning of school, we're kind of hesitant to figure out how many teachers we need where. And we're getting to a point where we know, kind of where our solidness is. Some classes are bigger than others in other places. Just want to speak about it so parents understand it.
So we met this morning and discussed that and reviewed where classes are large and where they're small, and we are beginning to go to work on that. One of our challenges is we have about the same number of students, but some buildings have grown while others have diminished in their enrollment. So we're trying to work through how those adjustments will be made. but we have that work ongoing right now.
Sometime in October, could you
Yeah, we
share
can
with us
review what
an
we
idea
have done
of
at that.
class sizes at different
Yeah,
levels?
that'd be great.
Thank you. Okay, new business, board policy updates. Andy?
So these are first readings, and so just as you go through these, we can talk a little bit about each one and point those out to you. The first one is an optional update. It is a diminishment. You will recall that we have had you guys do a mandatory reporter training. The policy has been adjusted from shall, the report shall, or it said it must contain the name and addresses of the child and the parents of the child. Very often, a board member would not know those things, and so there's a little bit of a diminish there. It also means that you just need to make a report to your law enforcement. You don't have to do it through DHS, right? So those are just some diminishment slightly in the law, which diminishes the burden on you guys as board members. Second one, BD, BDA, board meetings. And if you take a look at that, it expands the definition of meeting, but it also limits it. If we were to go and look at a new program somewhere, that would not necessarily qualify. Or if you guys all went together to a national or a regional state meeting, that also would not qualify. And then on the inside, there is some language about needing translation. You need to request by 72 hours in advance. And then finally, just emphasizing how board members communicate with each other is in this, and this is optional, but telephonic, video, or electronic means of communicating with each other, we need to be very careful about that. If I'm communicating with you, it needs to be factual, not related to something that's going to come in front of the board, and non-substantive in nature, such as related to scheduling of meetings, etc. So these things are just kind of cleaning up the board, and it's really in the interest of just being really transparent as you do your work.
Quick question on that one.
Yeah.
So in the description we were given, it says something about public comment, yet none of the changes address anything about that.
Yeah, the only change to public comment is just that that we need to put reasonable effort into providing an interpreter if one is not provided and is requested, right? So that would be the only thing. I don't see anything in there that specifically has changed about public comment. And that's still something that you guys are evaluating. Yep. So the third policy is executive sessions. The Oregon Government Ethics Commission has added a couple of other reasons to have an executive session, and they are on page 2. To consider matters relating to the safety of the governing body and of public body staff and volunteers, and the security of public body facilities and meeting spaces, and then consider matters related to cybersecurity. Both of those would be things that typically, if you're going to have a special session, you would not want someone to be able to watch your deliberations, like how we're going to protect ourselves in cybersecurity, or if there's been some sort of safety incident, we certainly wouldn't want to do that. So that is just the two new ways that you can go into executive session. And then finally, the last one is something I think we've already talked about a couple times, but essentially it takes policy CB on the superintendent and basically adds a sentence that you may not direct the superintendent to take any action that conflicts with a local, state, or federal law that applies to school districts. And you guys were very clear in the year before I came that you were going to follow the law. So that's it.
Okay, future agenda items, we have none. Other business, not there. Looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we conclude tonight's meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, we're done for the night. Everybody have a good night.